Sunday, September the 21st, 2025, week 3 of the NFL season. And before we talk about it, here on Coffee with Frankie, we like to listen to the Frankie from Flatbush theme song.
Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustling dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
Sunday morning, audio visual check. Dode says AV check. All right. Dennis Montalvo is here. He's headed to the Keurig. Get some coffee. Todd is here. Good morning, Todd. Say hello to the cows for us. We got Phil Adams over here. He says audio visual 100%. All right. Let me know if it's any improved, Phil. This is the old microphone that we were using before, but I think it is improved. But we have to get confirmation from the people. Dennis says she has a nice voice. Yeah, I'd say so. Harlan Abraham is here. Good to see Harlan. It's Sunday morning, Harlan. We got to caffeinate up. The Jets are arriving at the stadium. Tyrod Taylor, with his usual excellent style in terms of fashion. He's a fashion icon, Tyrod Taylor. So we need a little coffee this morning as the New York Jets head down to Tampa Bay to head up against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see what the first road game of the year brings. But the Jets, of course, are a little short-handed. Well, so are the Buccaneers. They don't have Chris Godwin. They don't have Tristan Wirfs. They've got injury problems of their own. They've got other offensive line problems, in fact, as well. With as far as injuries, Cody Mauch, however you pronounce it, he's out of there, and a bunch of other people. I think Gadecki's out as well. So they have all sorts of offensive line problems, but we have defensive line problems. Jermaine Johnson out, Jay Tufele out. So And of course, our starting quarterback is out, and we got Tyrod Taylor today. So we'll see how Tyrod does against this Todd Bowles defense. Anthony G says, "Jet the F up. Got an Americano. What about a Cubano? I have heard so many good things about Cuban coffee. And here I am in Florida. Now, Miami is where you generally get your Cubano cafe. But still, I mean, being in Central Florida, you should be able to get a nice Cubano. But I have yet to see one, so I'll keep my eye open for you, Anthony G." Phil says, "Yes, Mike has a little better tongue. Well, a little better tone," says Phil Adams. All right, sir. GM Frankie question from Joe Mike. Joe, we talked about this all summer. Joe, didn't we talk about this all summertime? I mean, we had every Sunday. For those who are new here, Joe Mike is a regular. And we had these conversations all summer long. And I told you they're not doing enough to replace him. We didn't draft anyone significant. Tyler Barron's not good enough. And there's people we could sign, Zadarius Smith and Jadeveon Clowney and this one and that one. There were plenty of people out there that we could have signed, but we didn't. And we had these conversations, and now you're seeing the problems. And it seems to me, and I put this out on Twitter X yesterday, and Dom C responded he wasn't very happy with me. But I think Dom C was incorrect because the Jets just have not built this roster in a way that's sustainable to actually win games. And he wanted to say, well, we're in rebuild mode, Frankie, don't you know? Well, that's not what anybody told us or the players. They said we're in win now mode. And if you were in rebuild mode, then we should have seen a lot more trades of veteran players to get draft picks for next year. We did not see that. We didn't make any real trades for draft picks at all, except for, Derek Noddy. That doesn't count. We got like a pepperoni pizza for him. But, if you wanted to say this was a rebuild, then Brees Hall should have been traded. Quincy Williams should have been traded. You should have seriously considered a Quinn in trade, although that would have been, a very, very big trade. But if somebody wanted to give you a huge package, a Tony Alexio package, perhaps for Quinn, and you'd have to listen because if you're doing a rebuild, you have to think about we're not going to really compete for the next 3 years. But that's not what we said, and that's not what we did. And so, if that's the case, and you are trying to build the roster smartly to try to win games this year with Justin Fields on your team, by the way, which is the whole idea was let's find out about Justin Fields. If we're going to do a rebuild, it makes no sense to even acquire Justin Fields. Why did we even acquire him then? Because we could have saved $20 million and rolled it over to next year, and then the next year, and then whenever you need it for free agents. But we acquired Justin Fields, and the only way you're going to know if Justin Fields is good or not as your franchise type quarterback is to give him enough weapons and tools and protection and players around him to make that evaluation a clean one. So I totally disagree with what was going on X yesterday with Dom, unfortunately. I just disagree with that point of view. Nothing I have seen tells me it is a rebuild. If it is, at the trade deadline, we need to see a bunch of players traded for picks. That's how you rebuild is through the draft. You don't, and we don't have that many picks next year. It's not like we have 12 picks. I think we have our standard allotment. We might be down one with some of these trades we made. I have to look at it. But we're going to have 6 or 7 picks next year as it stands now. Well, plus we are getting some comp picks. So we might have a few extra, but it's not like we have a ton. And that's really what you want to be doing if you're rebuilding. You got to restock the roster with young drafted players who you then develop, and you hope to hit in that the quarterback as well, and then you make your way up, and that's how it works. So I think there's probably a large percentage of the fan base that is just trying to cope with this roster any way that they can because they were told that the coaching staff was going to just sprinkle magic coaching dust on players who are bad and make them good, like Tiny Tony Adams, which I told you all summer. and Rashad Weaver, who we finally let go, and Jay Tufele, and this one and that one, Brady McGregor, and all these people, Tyler Barron. These are not good players, and you just can't sprinkle magic coaching dust on them and turn them into good players. It doesn't work like that. The only ones, the ones who can sort of transform are the quarterbacks because it's such a brain oriented position. You put them in the right situation, they can flourish. But for the most part, these other guys, when they're bad, they're bad. I mean, yeah, they can improve a little bit, or they could be to a different situation and get better sometimes, or just be in a role that suits their skill set and things like that. Yeah, that can happen. But to think that you're just going to suddenly make Brandon Stevens into a ball hawk, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I said so at the time. And so, Joe Mike, this is the problem. When you build a bad roster, like they did, and like we discussed for months on end, Joe, and then you have an injury or two, this is what happens. What did you think was going to happen, Joe? I mean, I don't know. Maybe people just don't take old Frankie seriously. I don't, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, folks. Joe, I told you this is a puddle thin roster, puddle deep, puddle thin, puddle deep roster. And so one or two injuries, and Johnson's coming off an injury, a major injury, Achilles. And the first week they played him 50 snaps. That's not really easing him in. That's not really being smart with Jermaine Johnson. Uh, so again, poor roster construction will always come back to bite you. There's always attrition for every team in the NFL. It happens every year to every team. You just got to hope that your main players, your superstars, don't get hurt for the most part because you're going to have injuries. It's every team in the entire NFL. And so to have such a thin roster and think that Rashad Weaver deserves a shot in training camp, no, he doesn't. And to think Tyler Barron should be traded up for and given up, we were going to give up trade capital to get him? What? It's not like he was some seventh round pick. All right, take a flyer. He fell to us. All right. No, we traded up to get him. So and all of the mistakes that we've discussed ad nauseum. It's the whole roster. We've talked about it. All the mistakes that were made. They did some good things, but they made a lot of amateur rookie mistakes. Remember, Darren Muji never got an interview in his entire life for a GM position in the NFL. Never had one interview. Nobody thought to themselves, who we should probably talk to who's a smart cookie? Darren Muji. Nobody thought that. And we thought, well, let's interview him. Okay, you can interview a guy. And then not only did we interview him, we gave him the job. So as a rookie who never even had an interview before, and we paired him up with Aaron Glenn. So you say, all right, we got one rookie in the regime, the decision making regime. Well, we'll pair him up with an experienced guy, right? Nope. We'll pair him up with another rookie, Aaron Glenn, as the head coach. So the thing we have to hope for is that these guys can learn and they're not stubborn, and they can learn from their mistakes and do better next time in the next cycle. But it's turning out, unfortunately, that all the things that we talked about, Joe, over the summer, ad nauseum, looking at the roster, wondering why they're not signing guys, saying we got plenty of cap room, which we do. We still have plenty of cap room. There's no problem with the cap. And we can create more cap room in 2 seconds by restructuring some contracts easily. And that's really that. So that's where we are, and that's what's happening. And hopefully they do some schematic stuff that surprises me, and we look at it today and we go, wow, they're running a 3-4, or they're running a tight front in a 4-3 with Spinny McWinney out on the outside in the wide 9 or something. And I hope they do some creative stuff on defense. That would be fantastic. And that would, show that they at least can be creative and try different things. But so far, they haven't been creative. They haven't done anything innovative or really surprising. They just have done the normal things that you do in a 4-3 defense and in a 4-2-5. They've mostly been in nickel, about 70% anyways. which is what they've always been. Although under Salah and Albrecht, we were a little bit higher, but close. And the third linebacker position has been an absolute disaster. Marcelino McCrary Ball has played poorly. Kiko has played poorly. And they couldn't find a third linebacker if they wanted to use one more frequently, like Glenn did in Detroit. Well, you have to then sign a guy or draft a guy who can play that role. And they went with Marcelino McCrary Ball, who you look at the tape and it's like, what are you doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. And the same thing with Kiko. And Kiko's a rookie. Maybe he'll figure it out. But uh, you're seeing the result of this. I mean, this is how it goes. So let's hope that Alan Dodge is correct. New York Jets Road Warriors. Let's hope we're able to pull one out today. Salami says, yeah, Tampa's missing 3 starters on the O line. So let's see how that manifests itself. If we can't get pressure on Baker against this O line, what does that say about our D line? All right. We should be able to get pressure on Baker and force him into some errant throws, which he is want to do sometimes when you get pressure on him. Now, can we catch those errant throws? Probably not. I mean, we seem to be allergic to the football on defense. Braden is here. Holiday with Frankie, LOL. The coffee ain't as good. Well, Braden is one of the members of the inner circle, so cheers to Braden. He has his PC salami as well. I see him in the chat. And so you may want to join the inner circle where you can get exclusive videos and exclusive documents, including scouting documents. How do all these scouts fill out their paperwork and on these prospects? You know, we had a very interesting day yesterday in college football. In case you missed it, UCF baby killed Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. How about that? Go UCF Knights! But and some other really interesting games as well. Arch Manning had a get right game against Sam Houston State. But what are these scouts? What paperwork do they fill out? How do they fill out, a scouting report on these prospects coming through out of college? Because if the season keeps going like this, we're going to be doing mock drafts in October, my friends. And so hopefully we turn it around so we don't have to do that. But if the losing continues, the mock drafts will begin. And so, uh, um, boy, but if you want the scouting reports, the blank ones, to see how do these scouts, what are they looking for? What are the critical factors? The inner circle members, they have all of them for every position. What are we looking at when we're looking at a quarterback? What should I be? When we're watching these college games on Saturday, what should I be looking for? What would a scout be looking for? What would a scout be actually? I mean, should we just look for highlight plays, running around and throwing wild passes? Perhaps not. This is not Mr. Caleb Williams, Mr. Cameron Ward. Uh, uh, but you never know. Maybe they'll develop. Anthony G, speaking of Cubano, will be smoking a cigar during the game. Maybe it'll be good luck, Anthony G. A little cigario. Well, they often say, well, you got to wonder. You think about it. The best cigars, they say, come from Cuba. They grow the tobacco. I guess they have a good process over there. They say, and then what? And then coffee. You have Cubano cafe, coffee, Cuban coffee, uh, which is also supposed to be excellent. I mean, what's going on in Cuba, where you get great coffee and then you smoke a cigar, you get all the nicotine, so it's basically like a caffeine nicotine high. what what's going on over there in Cuba? Montalvo says, I'm drinking Bustelo. Hey, we don't got to keep it high class over here. I could drink a Bustelo. You know, might as well drink Folgers. Phil Adams, Clem is not a bust. He's just misunderstood. Yeah, yeah, just a misunderstood man. Leads the league in penalties in the time since he's been here. Roughing the passer is his specialty. I mean, if you need somebody to rough the passer, though, let's put it into a positive spin. If you're looking for a roughing the passer guy, nobody better than Michael Clemens. So maybe we could get something for him at the trade deadline. Maybe somebody's looking for you. They just want to rough the passer. They want to pretend like they're tough guys. So they walk around without a shirt on and a baseball bat. And when the game comes, they don't make any tackles or sacks, but they will rough the passer like a mother trucker. And they, so maybe we could sell somebody on, hey, this guy is the greatest roughing the passer dude ever. Give us a 6th-round pick. It's rebuild time. Yeah. So you're saying he just had to lie. It doesn't matter to me what really they say to the public as much as to the players. They told Quincy Williams, no, we're trying to win here. Don't be upset. Don't, maybe trying to keep him for next year. They did give him some incentives in his contract this year, Quincy, to get him up to where he probably should be. Um, but lying to your players when you're supposed to be Mr. Authenticity, that strikes me as that strikes a wrong chord with me. This guy's so authentic and such a truth teller. He tells the players the truth, except when he's completely lying about the entire direction of the team. Yeah, so PC agrees. I don't think that's true. If it is, it's still not good. If it is, it's still not good. That was their tactic. Oh, we're gonna lie, and then we're gonna get you to sign $30 million extensions, and then I mean, the players aren't stupid, and they could still demand trades. As we've seen around the league, it doesn't matter if you sign a contract; you can still demand a trade at some point. I mean, the team's going to give them some time. It's only 2 games in, but at the same time, if this continues, they're going to be like, you lied to me. This was a lie. Trade me." And so, great, they got 2 players. You need more than 2 players to be on a team. NYC Sport 1233 is here, everybody. Good morning to NYC Sport. So, going around the NFL, Joe Burrow had toe surgery this week, and they hope he returns in mid-December. That might be a little optimistic, but he's out for at least 3 months, maybe the season. Joe Burrow with yet another season-ending injury. I believe that makes 3 on the career so far. So not good for Mr. Burrow. Bears cornerback Jalen Johnson plans to fly to Philadelphia early this week to meet with Dr. William Myers of the Vincera Institute with core muscle surgery, the likely outcome, sources say, for his injury. If that's the case, Johnson would have a chance to return during the second half of the season. As we all know, the Bears are struggling mightily, both on offense and defense. Caleb not playing great, and the defense not being as good as they had hoped over there. And they were supposed to have a very stout defense, and they do not, at least not so far. Kalijah Cansey of the Buccaneers, another Buccaneer that's out, could have a late season return from a pec injury. So Kalijah Cansey is someone we won't have to block today. So that's kind of good. Not good for him, of course. Never want to see anybody injured, but Baker Mayfield is friends with Tyrod Taylor from their time in Cleveland. That's a bit of a story here. And of course, Todd Bowles, being our former coach, Marcus Mariota is starting in Washington as Jaden Daniels is out for 1 game with a knee. Um, some people are upset with Shady Tom Brady for being an owner and also a broadcaster and also very involved in the play calling, apparently. He was spotted in the coach's booth this past weekend. So the shadiness of Tom Brady just goes on and on and on. I mean, the guy cannot do anything that breaks or at least bends the rules. Things that could happen today. Aaron Rodgers could throw his 509th touchdown pass of his career. surpassing Brett Favre for the fourth most all time. Jordan Love goes for his 10th straight game without an interception, setting the Packers' mark since the merger. The Colts might punt. In case you missed it, uh, he the Colts have not punted in either of their games, miraculously. So they have the Indianapolis Colts are one of the surprise stories of the NFL. Maybe Daniel Jones is the latest quarterback with a renaissance that we were hoping for with Justin Fields. Maybe it's actually Daniel Jones, but we'll have to see more evidence as the season progresses. Harold Fanning Jr., if he catches 6 passes, will tie the rookie record for tight end. That's stupid. Tight end passing catches for a rookie. Who cares? Well, Field Yates with some dumb stuff. Buccaneers wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, who is expected to play today versus the Jets, despite hip and groin injuries, is expected to have his snaps monitored and potentially limited based on how he feels during the game. So we can keep our eye on that. Jake Browning is starting. Carson Wentz is starting for the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy out. Tyrod starting for us. Marcus Mariota starting for the Commanders. And Mac Jones is starting for the 49ers. A lot of backups starting around the league. And that's not good for ratings. We'll see if it actually affects the ratings in any way or not. The Browns plan to start rookie running back Quinshon Judkins today against the Packers following an impressive debut versus the Ravens. Judkins, the second rounder, averaged more than 6 yards per rush last week and is ready for more of a workload. So Quinshon Judkins could become a force for the Browns. We'll see if that helps them win anymore. Myles Garrett, basically, and they basically had to pay Myles Garrett to play continue playing on a very bad team. I mean, think about that. To have a team that has such a dominant player such as Myles Garrett, and then just be not be able to build anything around him. So that's what's going on around the league. As far as the Jet beat writers, nobody's really posting much. Even they are being lazy. Samini is at the stadium. It's 10:30, so Chimney's posting from the press box. He says it's beautiful and hot in Tampa, so I think it's going to be in the 90s or upper 80s or mid 90s in Tampa today, so that could be a factor. Might see some cramping. Hassan Reddick revenge game. Tamini writes, maybe it should be Jets' revenge game after what he pulled last year. Reddick has the second most pressures and quick pressures. Not sure what I mean. That's a pretty dumb stat in the NFL from left edge. Per next gen stats, already has as many sacks, one, as last year. Paging Mr. Membu. So that's something to watch. How does Armand Membu do in his third game? Was great in game one, was okay in game two. Let's hope he's great in game three and continues to be great. That would be good for us. Same thing with Olu, of course. We want to see our young players playing well today. Something to watch. And so, yeah, there you go. That's where we are this morning. And for those who don't know, we'll be live streaming a watch along um, at um, at 1 p.m. over on the Green Bean channel. And so we'll do that. Now the inactives for today are pretty easy to predict because we have 6 injured players. They're all going to be inactive. Injured players who are not on IR, that is. And one player, and we called up 2 players. So we called up 2 players from the practice squad. We called up Brady Cook, of course, the quarterback, to back up Tyrod, and then Dean Clark, the defensive back, came up with Tony Adams going down. We needed an extra safety, so Dean Clark is here for this game, which means you have to, if you call up two from the practice squad and they're going to be active, that means five others from the regular uh, uh, squad, or really seven, five plus two. So you really need seven from your 53 man to be inactive. So the inactives today are almost certainly going to be Asa Pole and then the six injured players. It's not hard to predict. Pole, Nwangu, Reynolds has a hamstring. Tufele has an illness. Adams, Fields, Johnson. So those are going to be the seven that are inactive. So we really don't have to wait. Um, we really don't have to wait for the inactives to come out at 11:30. So we'll probably keep this one brief. Uh, as the chat also seems a little quiet at the moment. Let me know if there's any pertinent stuff, topics. My general sense is that Jet fans are very disheartened at the moment. They're not exactly enthused about this team or the coaching staff or anything else. So hopefully the effort today will turn things around a bit in terms of perception. But judging by the various things, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of enthusiasm right now for the Jets and the Jet fans, including in this chat where there's very little going on. And hopefully it's not the same bug that we had before. Let me check something. We did have an API issue one of those weeks, a couple of weeks ago. Um, the chats stopped coming in. It was very strange. You guys were chatting away apparently, and I couldn't see it. So let's just make sure here. Ah, there seems to be a problem. There are chats. All right. So chats are not coming through on Restream, so we may have to rethink this Restream. So I'm going to try to see if I can. So Alan Dodds is number one on the leaderboard, by the way. So let me see. I'm going to have to just read these. So this is now second week where these chats stopped coming in, which is kind of annoying. And I think it's a restream thing. Let me see. This is where it stopped. uh, wonder what if I. Well, that has to be the most annoying thing ever. So we may have to rethink Restream if it can't bring me the chats. How annoying. All right, let's go. So now I'm on YouTube, looking at YouTube over here. Road Warrior Cubano. So NYC Sports said, I think this year is about evaluating who is on the roster and letting young guys get reps, but that's not how they operated, NYC Sport. At least that's what I hope when they left good vets unsigned. That would be fine if they operated that way, but they didn't. In other words, then they should have traded a bunch of people for picks. They should have made smart young player signings that, guys on the fringe of the roster that, are kind of like potential guys, but they didn't. Joe Mike said this game is extremely important for our coaching staff. Last week they were outcoached, outclassed. Steve Wilkes playing man on every down is inexcusable. Not a good look on the coaching staff. Yeah, I agree, Joe. It was very disappointing. Dode says GMs can learn too. Let's hope so. Yeah, PC Salami said, "Yeah, Frankie, feel your pain. New Brain Trust did a couple of good things, but there's also a combination of lies and stupidity from them as well. Yeah, it's very disconcerting. I mean, very concerning, disconcerting, and concerning." Um, they wish they had a way to refresh the chat. Oh, I see. It looks like, yeah, it looks like the API is just breaking on Restream because I can't even pull up YouTube when I pull up the thing, it's grayed out. So obviously something's going on with the API between Restream and YouTube. And so that's not acceptable. This is the second time now. So I think Restream's probably over for this channel. We can't have this. So I'm just looking on my other screen here. I'm looking at YouTube directly to see these comments here. And I see Alan Dodds is listed as the number one on the top fan leaderboard. So Dodds, you're number one, buddy. Um, as a fan base, Dodds says we are usually better at saying what the team is compared to the front office. Yeah, I mean, and I understand they can't come out and say we stink and we're going to lose and all this. But there's ways you could say it. Like you can say, well, we need to have patience. Rome isn't built in a day, et cetera, et cetera. Alan Dode says, "Go UCF." Yeah, for those who don't know, UCF is now 3-0, and they just beat the big bad Bill Belichick. And Belichick's team is 2-2, and they played 2 games against the Big 12, and they got their clocks cleaned by both teams in the Big 12, TCU and UCF. And then in between that, they played 2 cupcakes, and they beat those cupcakes. So he's basically played 2 real teams and lost by significant margins in both games. Joe Mike, typical Jet script would be to win today, get our hopes up, and lose in epic fashion to the 0-3 Dolp frauds on Monday night. Yeah, that could happen. Braden says, does he look good in jeans? Isn't that how they do it, Frankie? No, that's not how they do it, Braden. That's not on the scouting sheets, Braden. You got to go look in the files, buddy. Clem is the new king of strain. Yeah, king of strain. Todd is number 3 on the leaderboard. Todd says cappuccino is my drink of choice in the morning, Jack Daniels at night. Phil Adams is number 2 on the leaderboard. Phil, you got to do something to get to that number 1 spot, buddy. Phil Adams said Cuba had some quality boxers back in the day too. Yeah, and Ernest Hemingway hung out there. So Cuba had some things going on for it. I don't know much about Cuba, but communism no bueno. Inactive predictions, Anthony G. The predictions are easy today because we have 5 injured. Well, we have 6 injured players plus Asa Pole. That's 7. Asa Pole is the project that we picked up on the waiver wire. He's not going to play this year probably. So he's always going to be inactive. Plus, we have 6 injured players. So we brought up 2 from the practice squad, and so we already those 6 injured players are going to be inactive plus Asa Pole. So it's easy to predict today. We play the Bengals, so we have a chance in that game now with Burrows out. Salami said no, incorrect. So Jake Browning is. This is going to be a controversial statement. Jake Browning is just about as good as Joe Burrow. We'll put it this way, Jake. That's a controversial statement. Let's put that aside for a moment. Jake Browning is a more than capable um, um, quarterback. So uh, it doesn't increase our chances that much. It's not like they have some bum as the backup. Browning's pretty good, Salami. So let's keep that in mind. Braden says, did they ever give the captaincy to someone else? No, they did not. The Bucs assume they can rest their entire first team offense and still beat us. Yeah, Anthony says so. Phil Adams, Tom Brady is the Lance Armstrong of the NFL. Massive cheater, yet Brady still has all the rings and all the money. Remember, he makes 30 million plus from the NFL from Fox to broadcast these games and be a terrible broadcaster, but because of who he is, he gets to make 30 million, 30 plus million. So JoJo says heat index will be over 100 today in Tampa Bay, right? So that's something else to watch. Heat index in Tampa Bay, going to be a lot of cramping. Brian Goldstein says, do you know who is the backup quarterback today? Come on, Goldstein. Come on, Goldie. I'm not sure about Taylor. Well, Taylor's going to play unless he gets injured, of course. But Brady Cook is the backup. He's the only quarterback we had on the roster. Goldstein, what are you talking about? Anthony G says, I still believe in the staff. Here's what I'm going to probably do a video about this because here's what I'm coming to realize about a coaching staff. Probably um, the main thing that you want out of a coaching staff is correct evaluations of players in terms of their talent and what they can do relative to the things you're going to ask them to do. So, in other words, you need a coaching staff who's honest and is good at evaluating the players on their own team to know, do we need to get rid of this guy? Do we need to keep them? Do we need to replace them? And what type of players do we need to draft and sign to get in here to be able to be successful with what we want to do? Sticking with Tony Adams, sticking with Michael Clemens, signing Brandon Stevens, these were all signs that our talent evaluation process between the coaching staff and the scouting staff and the GM was not up to par this past off season. Many, many mistakes. I could run through them all, but that would be boring. But there were many mistakes made, some good things done, but many mistakes made. And so it's almost like the coaching staff. I want a coaching staff who's good at evaluating players, self scouting players on other teams when the scouts bring you information about these people, to be able to say yes on this guy, no on that guy, and be right. You know, uh, that's the most important thing is bringing in the right guys for your team and getting rid of the wrong guys that don't belong here. They may be successful elsewhere, but Braden says effort. That's it. That's what I want to see. The effort's always there, Braden. It's not effort, it's execution. And I'll keep bringing up this analogy because it's true. Fans always think that in baseball, a team that's not hitting very well isn't trying, and a team that is hitting really well is trying and is super enthusiastic and blah blah blah. They're both trying the same. Joe Torre said, one year I hit 360 and the next year I hit 260. And I tried the exact same. I tried as hard, exactly the same. I tried as hard both years. It's not about trying, it's not about effort. That's not what it is, Braden. We got to get past this. This isn't Pee Wee's. This isn't high school. The effort, these guys, if you can't be put out an effort making millions of dollars, making a king's ransom to play a kid's game, then you shouldn't be here. Period. You shouldn't be on the team. So everybody gives effort. It's very rare that they're not giving effort. Zach Rosenblatt tried to post a little video clip showing Brandon Stevens wasn't running hard. The guy was already in the end zone. What do you want him to do? Hustle, run really fast for no reason? I mean, it's ridiculous. So what we need is guys who can play the game. We need people who are good at football and not getting infatuated by the fact that he's big. Oh my God, Michael Clemens is so big. You heard AG talk about him, like saying, "Oh, he's so big and strong. If I could only be that big and strong, man." It's like, dude, get over it. Phil Adams says, "I'm more than happy with number two. Alan Dodds is a gold medal superstar." uh, all right, Phil, you got to work on your competitive spirit, buddy. You know what I'm saying? So Montalvo says, "Is Brandon Smith still on the practice squad? He deserves a shot." Yes, he is. And that's somebody they refuse to call up. I don't know why they don't give this guy a shot. All he does is get open and catch passes. They have problems at the wide receiver position, as identified by the fans. They don't seem to think so, which is another problem. But they have Brandon Smith, who I mean, every chance he gets in the preseason and practice, he he excels. Why can't we get him onto the? Why can't we get an elevation? I don't know. Just the way they've constructed the roster is very poor, and so what? That is another example of can these coaches make the right evaluations of the players, especially on their team? That's something else I'm watching very closely because I just don't like why wasn't Eric Watts brought up today? We didn't bring up so now Tyler Barron's going to play a lot today. Yeah, I hate to tell you guys, Michael Clemens and Tyler Barron are going to be playing a lot, as is Braden McGregor. Hope they do better than they ever have. Hope they take their steroids this morning because they're going to be playing a lot. And that's concerning. And they didn't even bring up Eric Watts as what if somebody gets hurt? I mean, they basically have 8 defensive linemen. If one goes down, you need 8. You need 4 edge and 4 DTs at a bare minimum. I mean, we only have 4 defensive tackles. These guys are going to be gassed. It's 100 degrees on the field. These guys are going to be gassed. And they didn't bring up Eric Watts or Peyton Page from the practice squad. Uh, it's hard to understand some of these moves that they make. I mean, we signed Nick Needham. We could go and sign. Justin Simmons is still out there. We have the money, but we signed Nick Needham. It's crazy. I mean, probably the craziest statement in the offseason so far was when Steve Wilkes said our defense is going to be driven from the back. It might be the dumbest statement I've ever heard in my life. First of all, no vehicle is ever driven from the back. But more importantly, he's trying to say our defensive backfield is going to be the thing that drives the defense. No defense is driven from the defensive backfield. It's driven from the pressure you're able to get up front and run stuffing, and then the pressure on third down. And then it does help to have good defensive backfield. Also, everybody's important, but to say that the defensive backfield is going to drive the bus is nuts, and nobody's brought that up. Where's the commentary on that comment? I mean, I understand that AG and Wilkes have a background in defensive backfield play; they specialize in that. But at the same time, you can't neglect the defensive line. It's going to be 100 degrees today, and we basically don't have enough defensive linemen if anything happens to any of them. So Edutane is talking about Brees and Braylon. It's really more about the offensive line, Edutane. So we got to get good blocking, and then it doesn't really matter who. Well, it matters, but then any running back will go through the holes. So JoJo says odd decision making with this staff and front office. Yeah, I agree. I mean, why isn't Eric Watts up here? We have 8 defensive linemen today in 100-degree heat, and they're not good. So, and on top of the fact that they're going to get gassed, and they're going to be by the fourth quarter, they're going to be, first of all, they're going to probably cramp up, and then secondly, they're not good anyway. And then so they're going to. I mean, I think Bucky Irving might have 200 yards rushing today, and on top of all that, we don't even have backups in case we get an injury. So, you know, Alan Dode says, in the Rex Ryan defense, weren't the DBs more important than the D line? No, absolutely not. And plus, that was a 3-4 Dodes. And so the linebackers become more important than in a 4-3. In a 4-3, the D line is the way to think about defense is if you have a 4-3, you're saying you want your defensive linemen to be the superstars. If you're in a 3-4, you want your linebackers to be the superstars of the defense to make most of the tackles, to get the sacks. Think about Pittsburgh. TJ Watt is technically a linebacker. He's a defensive lineman, but he's technically a linebacker. Or think about Alex Highsmith, right? That dude. That's a linebacker who is often on the line and rushing, but he's in coverage. He's making tackles. In a 3-4, which is what Ryan ran, the linebackers are the superstars. In a 4-3, your defensive line is the superstars. If you're going to run a 4-3, then you have to invest heavily on the defensive line. We just went through this, Dodes, with Saleh. What do you think the San Francisco 49ers just did with Saleh and his scheme now? They invested heavily on the D line. Did you see what they did in the draft? They took all these people. The first 5 rounds of the draft, they took defense. And I think 3 of those were defensive line. That's Saleh to a T. Because Saleh, for all of his problems, he understands that if you're going to run a 4-3, and he's running more 5-man fronts now, by the way, to make it even more pronounced. If you're going to run a 4-3, you need superstars on the D line because you're saying to the offense and you're just saying that the D line is going to be the superstars here and the linebackers are going to fill in. It's sort of the opposite of the 3-4. The 3-4, you're 2-gapping. The D line is 2-gapping. So they're not going to make as many splash plays, but they'll be more solid against the run generally. And plus, you have 4 linebackers who can run, and so some of those should be thumpers to fill in the run gaps, the run fits. So defensive backs are always important. Don't get me wrong; everybody's important. there's no position on the field that's not important, but you can't say it's going to be driven from the back. It's not. It can't be. Everything starts up front. The trenches are where the game is won and lost. If you can affect the quarterback with your 4-man pressures and you don't need to blitz, that means you have more people in coverage to clog up the throwing lanes. And if those people start getting pressure on the quarterback, you're going to start seeing him moving around, getting frantic, and increase the chance he makes a stupid throw. And then your defensive backs have to catch it. And so we did have some great defensive backs, obviously, with the Rex defense. We had one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, for instance, who actually could catch the ball. Plus Cromartie and plus all the people we had. So everybody's important, but it's just you can't say that the defensive backs are going to drive the bus of the defense. That's ridiculous. They're important, but they can't drive it. Why? Because if the defensive line and the linebackers aren't good and they're getting blocked up, the other team's just going to run. That's what Buffalo did. We gave up 224 yards of rushing against Buffalo because they saw that they could do it and they just kept doing it. And then when they needed it, Josh Allen ran around and did stuff like he does. And bada bing, bada boom, they killed us. And what do you think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do? They just looked at that tape and they're going to do the same thing. And if we don't get it corrected, well, then we're screwed. PC says, maybe Wilkes thinks his defense is like a fire truck. They don't drive it from the back, those fire trucks. They do have a guy back there with, I think it's an emergency, but if you actually see a fire truck, they're in the front, Slummy. We did have much better linebackers than David Harris and the man. Yeah, but when you're running a 3-4, Dodes, you need more of them. Think about it. Like if you're going to have 4 on the field, then you also need like backups. You have to back up all those people. So you're going to have a roster filled with a lot more linebackers, right? Which means you're going to spend a lot more resources. And so you're going to hit on those draft picks. Some of the free agents are going to be better. And then you could have better linebackers, right? Think about what we've been doing this whole time in the Saleh era and now in this era. We have not invested really in the linebacker position. We said, we got 2 of them. Well, we had 3 when we had C.J. Mosley, but then he kept getting hurt. So CJ Mosley was a holdover from the previous regime. Then Sherwood emerged, and Quincy we got and we're excited about and did much better with us than he did with Jacksonville. So, but then when CJ went down, we really had nothing else behind that. We tried mid round picks, they didn't work out. Zaire Barnes and Hamza Nasruddin and these people. So we never really, aside from Sherwood, Mosley, and Quincy, we never really had much beyond that. And that was okay if you have those three. That's okay. But as we're seeing now, Mosley retired and the other two are okay, but where's the third one? And if you don't have a third one, that means you got to be a nickel. And if you're a nickel, they're going to run down your throat. And Michael Carter, the third, as good as he is and can be, though he hasn't been playing that great so far, he's not great at run defense. So the team's going to look and go, hey, these guys are a nickel all this time. Let's run it on them. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, Montalvo says DBs give the DL a chance to hit the quarterback. Right. So if your defensive backs are good enough to hold, to cover basically the receivers for 2 or 3 seconds, you really want it to get to 3, then the defensive line should be able to get home. So it's called rush and cover. It works in tandem. They're both important, but you cannot just skimp out on the defensive line. It doesn't work that way. Jojo says he's got a bad feeling about this game today. Salami says they might run all over us. Phil Adams, who, according to this, Phil Adams has taken over the number 1 spot on the top fan rankings, now has a purple crown next to his name, says, yeah, man, nothing says we're in for a good day. Maybe the gods will take pity on us and give us the luck. I mean, what we have to hope is that the offense can click. I mean, there's no reason for the offense to be bad. Tyrod should be Tyrod should be an accurate passer. Part of our problem against the Bills was Fields was just not accurate on a lot of his passes, and that's never good for an offense. I mean, the first series, we had Garrett Wilson wide open for a big gainer. He threw it over his head. You can't have that with your quarterback. Cannot happen. Anthony G, the decline of Michael Carter is not a good look for our coaches. I don't think it has anything to do with our coaches. It has to do with his health and how he's being used. I mean, I wonder, when you have a back injuries don't technically just disappear and you're fine. So you got to wonder about his health. And he shouldn't be in on rundowns. That's the problem. The not good look is not getting a third linebacker. A lot of us thought it was going to be Jamin Davis. Remember that? They let him go. And they said, no, we're fine with Marcelino and Kiko. And we're not fine with Marcelino and Kiko. Kiko was like the 30th rated linebacker in the draft. Nobody had him going in the 5th round. And Marcelino is a UDFA nobody who should be on special teams only, and he's not good enough as a linebacker. So why couldn't they find in free agency in the draft a third linebacker if they wanted, to play the run? And I don't know the answer to that, but it goes back to my criticism about talent evaluation. Coaching is more about talent evaluation than anything else. This is the thing, other than like offensive coordinators and play calling and all that. But for the most part, for all the other positions, to me, the most important thing is talent evaluation, being able to evaluate the talent on your team, on other teams, and figure out, I want that guy over here. I want this guy on our team out of here. And that's the problem. Edutane says, AG is a former scout. How is he getting some of this wrong? Because just because you were a scout doesn't mean you're a good scout. This is another problem that fans have. There's a lot of scouts who are dumb. Not saying AG is dumb, but there are a lot of scouts who are bad. He was only a scout for 2 years, and this is why one of the reasons why people should join this channel. You could actually go see the scouting forms that they fill out. It's not, they're not doing rocket science, and they're all pretty much saying the same things about these players. And how many times do they get it wrong, especially about quarterbacks? So just because you've done scouting doesn't mean you're good at it. Takes a special eye, it takes a special talent. So is it good that he has that experience? Sure, but it doesn't mean he's good at it, and it certainly doesn't mean that he's able to spot talent on the offensive side of the ball where he didn't play. He was a defensive guy. So that's how. Just because you're a scout doesn't mean you're good at it. Just like any other profession. And not every doctor is a good doctor. Not every lawyer is a great lawyer. Not every construction worker is great at construction work. So, you know, that's how. And we were hopeful that that was going to be much more of a plus than it has manifested to be so far. Let's give it another year and see. But if they do another cycle and it's the same thing, I'm going to unload on them every single time. Like if you guys thought it was bad this summer when Joe Mike and I were having our conversations about the roster and Michael Clemens, and I was trying to explain and showing it on my uh, 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 Excel, Microsoft Excel, and all this. Wait till next year when they've had a full year and their whole staffs are in place now. And if they do the same crap, I'm going to be unloading on them. So this is what this is what's going on. I'm going to give them a year. They didn't have their staffs in place completely. So there you go. Joe Mike says Jamin Davis still unsigned. Yeah, why don't we sign some linebacker, somebody? If not him, I mean, we've kind of seen they made Marcelino a captain for his amazing special teams play. Well, I guess that's on the players, I guess. But so they're not going to cut him, and they're not going to cut the draft pick they made. But you could cut somebody and get another linebacker in here. Phil Adams said, "Is there a stat rating database for scouts?" No, that's part of the problem. Half the time, you don't even know what they've done or said. This is why I get annoyed with like the amateur scouts who come on to the channel sometimes and they say this guy's going to be great and that guy is amazing. It's like, where's your track record? I'm on camera saying all this stuff. You can go back and watch what I'm saying. Somebody else comes on here and says, this guy, that guy, I told you this guy. Well, where's your track record? Where's your website? Where's your X account? Where's your spreadsheet? where's your channel? Right? It's like nobody holds these people accountable. Those are the amateur people. And then certainly at the professional level, no one holds them accountable. Only the best thing you could do is say, okay, who's drafting the best? For example, the Ravens. And you say, well, their scouts must be doing a good job. But you don't know. There might be a great scout, a good scout, a bad one. How do you know? I guess if they get fired, they're probably bad. But other than that, and plus, the Ravens, for example, have come out and said, yeah, we use this paper called the Loser's Curse. That's basically our draft philosophy. And so anybody can go get the Loser's Curse. It's available to Frankie from Flatbush channel members in PDF form, but anybody can Google it right now, read the paper, and go, oh, that's probably how we should do it. Why? Because don't the Ravens have good outcomes in their drafts? Yeah. So maybe follow the model of one of the best franchises out there. Don't reinvent the wheel. And basically, that paper says that the draft value chart is incorrect and that teams overvalue their top picks and teams should never trade up. They should stockpile picks, as many as they can get, because you never really know if the guy taken at number 7 is going to be better than the guy taken at number 9. This is looking at all the historical NFL drafts going back, a period of time. So if that's the case, just stockpile picks because you want to get it. You want to get a chance. You want to have a chance to get it right. You want to have more chances to get it right. And the Jets did the opposite. And that's the thing that worries me is what is the philosophical underpinning of these moves? Trading up for Tyler Barron? You don't trade up. You shouldn't almost never trade up, let alone trade up for a guy who's so lowly rated. So these are the things that are worrying me. Now, I'm going to give it a year because I want them to get their staffs in place, etc. but it's not looking good so far. Like Anthony G says here, Clemens, Gibson, Stevens, all players we knew would be bad. Yeah, Adams. Like if the this remember what I told you guys, Anthony? I said I hope I'm wrong. I'm praying I'm wrong. I don't want to be right about this. I want the Jets to be right. And I wanted the season. Now it's only 2 games, so let's give it a little time. That's always a caveat. Put a little asterisk. It's only been 2 games, and one was against a juggernaut called the Bills. So let's just give it a second. But if at the end of the year this is still where we're at, then the Jets will have been wrong and we will have been right, and that is bad because it means that we are better at talent evaluation than the Jets, which is not where you want to be. You do not want to be there. You want to be like the Ravens, who consistently get guys, and every time they get a guy, the professional commentator on TV is like, "Oh my God, what a steal!" These Ravens, they just always get the perfect guy for them, and uh, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I mean, there was a year where they took Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar in the same round in the same year, 2 tight ends, and they figured we need a tight end. One of these guys is gonna do it, and we don't know which, so let's take them both. And turns out Isaiah Likely is a star and Charlie Kolar is a bit role player. But that's the sort of thing you do. You're not sure which one, so just take both because you have so many picks. It's fine if that's what you need. Zach Wilson. So Phil Adams brings out Zach Wilson. Now Zach Wilson is somebody who. So Zach Wilson. The problem with that pick was we didn't have enough information to make him the number 2 pick overall. He didn't play enough. We didn't have enough games. And his last year that he played where he put up the big numbers was the COVID year, which is an unusual year against weird opponents with nobody in the stands and all that. So the idea there is not that Zach doesn't have talent. He certainly does. But the idea is it's too risky to take a guy like that with the number 2 overall pick when you could have traded back, gotten multiple number ones and much more, and then gotten somebody solid. And like if Zach Wilson was available in the second or third round, sure, take a shot. But the number 2 pick overall, no, you just didn't have enough information about him because of the circumstances. And does he have great physical traits? Yeah. Yeah, he does. I mean, look at John Mateer right now. Great physical traits. Look at Lenoris Sellers right now. I love Lenoris Sellers. His physical traits are amazing. Do I know he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL? Not right now. I don't know. Why? Because his decision making and processing aren't up to speed yet. Not right now. But his physical, I mean, you guys should watch a South Carolina game sometime on a Saturday, guys. This Lenoris Sellers has traits that make your eyeballs pop out of your head. I mean, he makes throwing the ball. It's like he's throwing a tennis ball. If I mean, it's incredible. But he sometimes does not make great decisions, and sometimes is a little slow in the processing department. And and so therefore, I don't know if he's going to be good at the NFL level, despite the fact that he has incredible traits. He has the quickest release you've ever seen. He could throw it 1,000,000 yards. He's fast. He's big. He's a big son of a gun, and he's hard to tackle, and he's fast as hell. I mean, this guy has traits that make your eyeballs pop out of your head. Uh, but I don't know if he's going to be a great pro yet. So that's the thing with scouting. You could scout the traits all you want, but the number one thing with a quarterback is their brain. Now, you got to have certain traits. Don't get me wrong, but the number one thing you need is the brain talent, and that was the thing that you just didn't have enough info on with Zach Wilson. And therefore, it wasn't that he shouldn't be in the league. It was that he shouldn't have been the second pick overall. That was the problem with Zach Wilson. You cannot take someone who's not a slam dunk with the number 2 pick overall. That was Joe Douglas's big mistake. He should have traded out, stuck with Darnold, and if Darnold was bad with a good team around him, then you get rid of him then and just bring in a veteran or something. So it's really something interesting. And then NY Sport 1233 says the quarterbacks at the college level. I'm building out a platform to where uh, we can evaluate these quarterbacks. I have certain things that I like to see from these quarterbacks, and I'm going to see over time how accurate it is. Harlan says he got knocked out. Yeah, he had a concussion, but then he played yesterday, Harlan, and he had a good game. Threw over 300 yards, some highlight worthy plays. But I saw some of the plays in the beginning of the game because I wanted to watch Fernando Mendoza. And in the beginning of the game, the one plays I saw again, Sellers was not quick enough with his decision making. You really want to see quick decision makers and have it be a correct decision and throw to a guy who's open and catch it. Look at Fernando Mendoza. I love Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. I watched him play yesterday. It was his first big test against good competition. Illinois played against the number 9 team in the country and put up 63 motherfucking points. That's a badass motherfucker. He went in there against a number 9 team in the country and put up 63 on those boys. So I love me some Fernando Mendoza so far. That's just one game, but I'm starting to take a look at Mendoza, and so far what I've seen, I love him. Now, that's I will underwrite my opinions as time goes on. So yeah, NY Sports says if you crack the collegiate quarterback code, you can make a lot of money from some smart NFL. Yeah, and I think I can do it because I'm starting to chart throws now. Like I think I've narrowed down what's important and what's not important. For example, if you see a guy in college running around, with these highlight plays like Caleb did and Cameron Ward, and a lot of these guys do. Mateer now, although I think Mateer is probably a little better. Well, I don't know yet. But you see these highlight throws, right, where they're running around for 5 minutes and then they throw some bomb and a guy's standing there. That's not really a plus for me. That's a minus. I want a guy, for the most part. Now, sometimes you have to run, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, who knows what he's looking at and quickly makes a decision and throws to the open receiver, even with a muddy pocket. That's what I want to see. So, um, we'll have to see uh, going forward how things work. But I do think I do think I'm on the right path. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Now, one of the things that I will do that a lot of football people will not do is re-underwrite opinions. So I will re-underwrite my opinions when I get new information. A lot of the big problems in scouting and NFL people and football people, they never re-underwrite their opinions because they don't want somebody to say, "Yeah, but you said he was going to be good, and now you're saying he's going to be bad." Yeah, I got new information. I figured he looked good then. He doesn't look as good now. You know what I'm saying? But I am not afraid to do that. I will re-underwrite my opinions as needed when you get more information. For example, so far to me, Fernando Mendoza looks great. Looks like a great prospect for me. And also, we're not going back further than Dennis Montalvo's talking about Mark Sanchez. Um, we're not going further back than anything further than 2011. So 2011 is the modern day NFL. I don't know what, I'm not going back historically. I'm just talking about the modern day college scene, the last few years, and then going forward. So we're not going to talk about historical and what about Joe Montana and what about Steve Young and what about Warren Moon and what about there's different eras. I don't care about any of the historical crap. What I care about is evaluating these kids coming out of college now and who's good for the Jets. So there's many different criteria. So games played is just one thing. But for example, but Zach Wilson, that's one of the thresholds that I do like a lot. Zach Wilson didn't have enough um, games to make an evaluation. I like at least 30. Now you're going to have exceptions to the rule. You know, I like to have at least 30 because I need to see you in different situations. I need to see you run the 2 minute drive. I need to see you in the muddy pocket. I need to see you at the end of the game. Do you come up clutch or do you shrink like a wallflower? There's different things I want to see. And again, I'm not going back historically. I'm just going to look forward. I'm not a history guy. Green Bean is the history guy. I'll be on the Green Bean channel later at 1 o'clock for you guys with you guys doing the watch along. If you want the history guy, ask Green Bean. He's the historical man, not me. But uh, so these are some of the things. But there's going to be a lot of other things. It's not just one thing. Um, there's going to be a lot of other things as well, and then you're going to take a look at the entire picture and see, based on all of these factors, where do we stand. But like Fernando Mendoza for me right now is on the definite maybe list. He's looking great right now, but if he plays Penn State and if he plays, I think he has Penn State on the schedule, and he has a couple, he has like 3 or 4 really big games against good defenses coming up. And if he shits the bed in those games, all right, now I'm thinking, okay, that's we're going to ding him a little there. So it's an ongoing evaluation process. But Illinois was supposed to have a great defense. All the broadcasters talked about this Illinois defense is so good, number 9 team in the country. Fernando Mendoza's got a real test for him in this game. All the announcer said as I was watching last night. And Illinois is supposed to have a really, really good defense. All right, he put 63 on him. 6-3. That's a bad motherfucker, man. Now, maybe he doesn't do that to Penn State. Maybe he doesn't do it to Michigan or whoever his Big Ten uh, really good opponents are going to be this year. I forget. I think Penn State's one of them. I forget. But he's got a couple of big games coming up on the schedule. And if he plays well against them, then it's going to be hard for me to say he's not the one I want. He's got all the physical tools you like. He's winning. He's got the leadership. He's got the height. He's got everything you're looking for. Now he just has to prove that he can do it against high competition, and that's really the last thing, to prevent him from becoming a top pick. In my opinion, he's got a rocket arm. He has enough athleticism. He's big and tall. He's a good leader. All these things coming out of a good system with Signetti over there in Indiana. Um, but if he plays bad going forward, then I'll change my mind. So I am someone who will always re-underwrite the opinion if required. That's one of the big problems in scouting, and it's because I don't. If I'm wrong about something, I can't get fired. Nobody can fire me from FSPN, guys. Like I run FSPN. I can't get fired. It's impossible unless you guys stop watching and stop commenting. Uh, nobody can fire me. Now, these people, these scouts and these coaches, they can get fired. And so if they say, oh, yeah, we can make it work with Michael Clemens, and then 3 games into the season, they say, get this bum out of here. Woody's going to go, wait a minute. You said we should keep him. You said we should keep him. Harlan says Pavia. Yeah, Diego Pavia is another guy. So there's 1,000 guys, and we got to look at all of them, Harlan. He played well, but don't forget, he's like an 8th-year senior or whatever he is. He has some crazy. So he's like a 30-year-old playing against children. So we got to keep that in mind. Doesn't mean he's not going to be good, but just keep that in mind. But there's all of these criteria. Now he has a lot of experience for sure, but there's a lot of criteria. But Pavia, I mean, there's a kid Taylon Green on Arkansas, I think it is, who has all the traits you want. He's 6'6" and runs like the breeze. But I don't. But he's based on his scouting report. I'm not as high on him. We got Drew Aller to take a look at. There's a lot of guys, and some will be surprises and stuff like that. But for me, for a guy who played a few amount of games and most of them in the COVID year where there was no one in the stands, that was one of the big problems with one of the red flags for Zach Wilson, because you were considering taking him with the number 2 pick, and you could have traded for a franchise altering haul, and you decided not to. And that was the problem. It wasn't so much Zach Wilson was the problem; it was the whole process of evaluation. And Goldstein says, I wanted Membu, but I saw some of Tyler Warren. Looks great so far. Yeah, everybody knew Tyler Warren would be great. It's the same thing with Brock Bowers, the Brock Bowers debate, Goldstein. Warren and Bowers were going to be great. They're great tight ends. There's nothing wrong with them. But we needed an offensive lineman. Tyler Warren wouldn't look so great on our team if our quarterback was getting sacked 10 times a game because we didn't get a right tackle. So, yeah, Tyler Warren's great. They're targeting him a ton. So, they don't really have great wide receivers, so they're just tired. They're same thing with the Raiders. But you target the guys who are the best pass catchers that you have. Dode says FSPN needs a board of directors. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not, Dodester. No, we're not doing that, because then they can fire your ass. Then there'll be some sort of takeover. We don't need that. All right. So this is the second week in a row where Restream has had a big problem with the comments. So Restream is out, folks. Restream is out. I can't have this. So, uh, well, we got 10 minutes to go. So I guess we'll hang out here for 10 more minutes just to see the official inactives. And all of the beat writers, I think it must be contractually mandated that they post a picture from the press box as soon as they arrive and show you the field. Why does every single Jet beat writer do that? They post the same picture. They take a picture as soon as they sit down in the press box looking out at the field, and then they tell you that they've arrived in the press box. Is that to make you feel shitty as a fan? Like, I'm in the press box and you're not, and here's proof. That's probably what it is, right? Reinforcing they're the authority and you're an asshole sitting at home, and they're at the game and you're not, you know? I think that's probably what it is. All right, so we got about 9 minutes until we get the official inactives. Since we made it all the way here, we might as well hang out for a couple of extra minutes. Let's see if there's any breaking news. Doesn't seem so. Jordan Love, May takes to coaching. Drake May, by the way, is going to be the real deal. I'm convinced now. Carson Wentz may have multiple starts for the Vikings. Tyler Warren has a toe injury. He's good to go, though, so he will be playing today. Um, so not much going on here. The Jet beat writers, again, they're just arriving to the press box and taking the same picture they do, which is a picture to tell you, hey, I'm in the press box and you're not. You're at home watching your TV. I'm here at the game. Restream throws too many picks. Yeah. What the hell, man? I mean, if they want to compete with StreamYard, now I'm going to have to go over to StreamYard and deal with that. PC says, yeah, they want to show you how special they are, Frankie. Yeah, they're special, all right. They're special, all right, PC. Proof they actually went to the game. I mean, I think we know that the beat reporters go to the game, don't we? Don't we already know that? uh, boy, but how disappointing is it for Restream? They can't even do the basics. And so who's the competitor to StreamYard? StreamYard wants to charge me $45 a month to do this. $45 per month. Whereas Restream is 19. But then again, if Restream can't get it to work, maybe they need to increase their prices. I don't know. It's kind of nutty. And Gunny swears by Restream. But then again, almost everybody else uses StreamYard. The StreamYard's the market leader. But $45 a month is a lot, man. Just to do two live streams a week. By the way, I think we're going to be doing every Thursday night football. So those who want to join Thursday night football, whoever happens to be playing, I think we're going to do a live stream. Let me know if you guys are into that. But we've done it a couple of times already. It's pretty good. I kind of like doing it. It's less of Edutane says try a VPN. That has nothing to do with anything, Edutane. The internet's perfect. No, what happened, Edutane, is that on Restream, I stopped seeing the chat. You guys are chatting away, and there was a point where no more chats were coming through. And last week, this happened, and the stream was going on, and you guys were chatting away, but I couldn't see it, and I thought you guys stopped talking. And I was like, oh, crap. They hate me now. It's very disconcerting for a host of a live stream to stop seeing chats come in, by the way, in case you didn't know that. If the chats stop coming in, it's like, oh, okay, guess I'll end the stream now. So it's very disconcerting. And does refresh the page. Well, the thing is, if I refreshed the restream page, it might kill the stream. They told me it was a problem. I got in touch with them, and they said, "Oh yeah, we had a problem with the API." Now they got back to me quickly, so that's a plus on their part, as opposed to people like YouTube or something. But at the same time, I said, "Okay, well, fix the API." They said, "We're working on it. We'll fix the API." And I was like, "Okay." Sometimes APIs stop working. Pop chat into a second window. I don't know what that because the problem is educating that I'm on a tab with Restream open, and Restream controls the stream to all of the channels, YouTube, X, Rumble, which nobody ever watches on those channels. But yeah, the problem is that Restream is in charge of the whole stream, really. If you think about it, because they're hosting it, and then they're sort of like a middleman between YouTube and X and Rumble, and so the APIs are important because the API is what connects all that together. And so they told me the API was the problem. I was like, all right, so just fix the API. That's a common problem in tech, right? So, but now it's a second straight week of this, so I can't have that. First of all, it freaks me out, and then second of all, so then I just went to YouTube and I'm looking at the. That's why I'm not bringing up any of the chats on the screen because I can't. So now I think it's just a restream problem, and so now I'm going to have to probably switch to StreamYard because StreamYard is the market leader. Restream is the quarterback. Yeah, Restream, yeah, it distributes the ball to the places where it goes, to YouTube, to X, etc. B Trav says, I don't comment much, Frankie from Flatbush, but I can never hate you. Well, you could, B Trav. You could. I'm sure I'm gonna have I'm sure I'm gonna have opinions that people are going to hate, especially when I start talking about these quarterbacks, guys. Because the way people get, there's a lot of different points of view on quarterbacks. And when I start talking about, whether it's Pavia or I might have a contrarian take about, I'll give you one right now, John Mateer. So I think John Mateer is good, and I think he makes a lot of splash plays, but I don't think he's right for the Jets. He might be good in the league even, but I don't think he's the right guy for the Jets. No way. He's like sidearm Will Levis. And sidearm Will Levis could work for somebody. Well, you'd be surprised, Edutane, how many how people get when you start talking about quarterbacks because they fall in love with these people. You haven't been around here when we start talking about the draft, but people will have these opinions about these players and they just love these players. So if you don't love them, you say, I'm not sure about this guy, they will attack your ass. they will they will jump on you like a pit bull. Hi Karate says, love the live streams. You're one of the few. Hi Karate. So we don't get a big audience for the Thursday night live streams, but if you guys want to join Thursday nights, I'm probably going to continue doing those. I like doing them because I'm not doing drive charts. I might do some passer charts during the game, maybe to show you guys some of the methodology I'm developing, and then get feedback on it. Um, but yeah, Thursday night football. Why not? I'm going to watch the game anyway. Might as well do a live stream, hang out with some of my internet buddies, and do that. So if you want to join Thursday nights, that's probably going to be a regular thing. Now it's 11:29. Let's see if the Jets have announced officially their inactives, though even though we know what it is, not just yet. So next few minutes we will. And then we will be live over on Green Bean's channel. We're going to start over there at 12:15. So we'll have some time to chit chat over on the Green Bean channel. So if you want an alternative to the idiots broadcasting it, I forget who's broadcasting the game, but you really want to hang out with Green Bean, and I think Jeremy might be there today as well. Jets Chaos and old Frankie will be hanging out over there during the game. I'll be doing my drive chart as normal to try to get some information about this team. And by the way, the outputs of those drive charts that I keep, well, the channel members get those. You can see the data analytics and the data that comes from the drive charts. How much motion are we running? What percentage of motion is the offense running? What percentage of shotgun? What percentage RPOs did we run? Well, Frankie has all that information, and the channel members get it. Only if you're a channel member, just $2 a month to join. For the Texans, Braxton Berrios is inactive, old friend. Wouldn't mind getting him back on the team. For the Colts, the inactives are Riley Leonard. How is he still in the league? Will Mallory, Chad Muma, Luke Tenuta, JT Tuamolalau, inactive. Bengals inactive, Cam Taylor Britt, Jermaine Burton, Tanner Hudson, McKinley Jackson, Shamar Stewart. So Shamar Stewart held out. Now I guess he has a slight injury or something, and he's inactive today. Jets inactive, Justin Fields, Jermaine Johnson, Tony Adams, Kene Nwangu, Asa Pole, Jay Tufele, Josh Reynolds. Yep, that's exactly what we thought. Kind of had to be this week. So hopefully these dudes, Fields, Johnson, Kene, Tufele, Reynolds, couldn't care less about tiny Tony Adams. But hopefully they can get back next week. But the inactives are what we thought they would be. And everybody's releasing their inactives. All right. So we will see you guys over on the Green Bean channel. Thanks for joining, and thanks for putting up with technical difficulties, which we always do seem to have. But check out the Green Bean channel. Like this video, subscribe if you're new, and consider joining the channel as a member for $2 a month. You get all the draft guides. You get exclusive videos, including PFF grades and DVOA and other things that cost money. You get to look at them for free if you're a $2 a month member of the channel. Pretty good deal. Consider it. Click the join button underneath this video, and I'll see you at 12:15